All right, so today I'm going to show how to grease the pin holder itself. First, I'm going to start off with greasing my parts. Here, I'm going to grease my pin gripper. Again, I don't want to put too much on there, so I'm just going to get kind of a light coat. As you can see, I kind of have some in the holes here. I could do a little bit less than that, but again, I'll get a Q-tip later and dig that up out of there, so that'll be great after that. And then again, after, I'm going to get both sides, make sure I get the whole part because I want to make sure I get a bunch of grease on there, lubricant on there, so that way it is won't burn off since it's plastic rubbing on plastic. So I'm going to do the exact same thing for both grippers. I'm going to do it for both sides. Then I'm going to grab my gear here and I'm going to put some lubricant on the gear teeth itself. So that's where I'll grab a Q-tip. I mean, it's easier to use a Q-tip or your hand. For me, the hand is a little bit easier. That way I can get more on there. Then I'm going to grab my gear itself. As you can notice, I put a bit more lubricant on here. Because what I'm going to do is I'm going to rub my gear into the teeth of the of my main gear. That way I'm lubricating both at the same time. And then this grease lubricant will go a long way. So I'm going to flip it, do a little bit more. Again, you don't want too much in there. You don't want it to be too thick, and it won't be able to hold long enough for you to get it to work properly. If you have too much on there, it's going to get gunky and start moving slowly. So you make sure you get enough on there, but also kind of a just shiny to the eye amount. So I'm going to grab my other gear also and rub that inside the same other gear that I use to grease the gear, the main gear. That way, I'm also greasing both at the same time. And then I'll wipe off a little bit at the end to make sure that I don't have too much running off or it's just way too much lubricant on there. So I'm gonna grab the other side of my gear, do the same thing with the other side, just run it up and down. That way that saves you time from trying to get each teeth individually and saves you a few steps, and you're also doing exactly what you need to do. And it'll also take off some from what you need going into the next step. So as I take care of this, I'll go ahead and finish this part up. Now I'm going to grab my switch button. The switch button on the inside rubs against the plastic of the holder. So I want to make sure I put some on there, so that button's going to be getting clicked repeatedly by the switch finger. So I want to make sure I put some on the inside, outside of it, and then make sure I get it. This one can be a little bit thicker on the lubricant since it gets rubbed so much and so often. That should be fine to put just a little bit more than what you have been doing over. So back to my main gear, I'm going to put some on the back side of it because this part rubs on the back side of the holder. It's going to be running up and down repeatedly. So I want to make sure I put plenty of lubricant on the inside and outside here on the little tabs also. So after I put that on there, I want to make sure I get a thorough check to go through. And this backside here, I wouldn't forget this backside here because that also rubs too. Again, you want to make sure you put lubricant on every part that touches plastic that's going to be moving consistently. Like here on my switch finger, on these little tabs at the end of it, kind of like a shaft. I'm gonna make sure I put lubricant on that because that's going to be going back and forth on the front of it whenever it's being clicked, loading for a pin. So I want to make sure I put plenty on there for that. So you're gonna put some on the Q-tip, and then I can rub it a little bit with my hands to get a little bit off, to get it all the way around. You gotta make sure you get your spring out the way. I could take the spring off and get the whole thing, but regardless, you're still gonna get the part that holds just the plastic. Now onto my holder itself. The back part of this is going to show where the switch lever goes in the back. So I want to make sure I put lubricant on the back side of the switch lever spot. And then I will add on to the middle side where the switch lever also goes. So as I continue here, I want to make sure I get the back side where my main gear goes. Get some lubricant all the way down on the slots because that is where it's going to be sliding up and down continuously. This is mainly the most part where grease lubricant is going to go for the pin holder. You can choose to put some on the inside where the grippers go, but it doesn't really need to take it there. But if you choose to do so. But again, as long as I have some on the back side where my switch lever goes, and on the inside where the back part of the switch lever goes, then I'm good. On this tab here for the switch finger, you can put some lubricant there. Might make it easier to slip it in, but again, it's pretty easy to do it without. But if you choose to do so, then go ahead. So on the switch lever here, on the black or the dark gray micro switches, it's tend to stick. So what we do is we'll put oil on the end where the switch button goes, where it's going to click the micro switch. That way, it's not going to want to stick. So I just put a little layer on top of there. That way, whenever it goes to engage the micro switch, it's going to slide right across and not want to stick. So if you have any loading issues after you put in a brand new micro switch, that's more than likely your cause.